Cool. So today we're going to talk about the machine web versus the human internet, which sounds complicated, but ultimately, there's a lot of AI projects being built. There's a lot of developments there, and people are maybe, wondering if we create all these AI agents and then we design the internet for them, what place will there be for the rest of us? Which I think is a broader AI topic with people worried about their jobs and everything in that sort of climate. So before we start, a quick round of intros. You have 30 seconds each before you get thrown out. Do you want to go?
Hey, I'm Rob Whitehead. I'm CEO of MSquared, which is a virtual world technology company. It's part of Improbable, for those who remember that. In terms of stuff I look after is, a lot of the underlying technology that powers metaverses for things like Other Side for the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And also we have a sister project called Somnia, which is a very high-performance blockchain, where one of the use cases we're really seeing is usage by AI agents, which is relevant for today.
Hi, I'm Richard Muirhead. I'm co-founder and managing partner at Fabric Ventures. I have a background in engineering, and I tried to build a robot car when I was at university, some success, and then build a couple of software companies in the middleware space, and then including kind of AI primitives, and took all of that and wrapped into the thesis that we have at Fabric. And we think that we are hurtling, in fact, probably have already hurtled into the machine web era, and we better be ready in terms of our infrastructure for the coming of the robots. And we're here to back people who are preparing us for that future.
Hi, I'm Zen. I lead global growth at Base. Base is a leading Ethereum L2 blockchain, as well as the Base app, a social app that also allows payments trading and anything on chain, and also Base Build, which is a suite of tools for developers.
Fantastic. Thank you for the work you do on Base. It has saved our industry over the last 2-3 years, I feel like. So.
Thank you.
And I know it's
record
all
that?
you.
That's pretty good. I like that quote. That's good.
Yeah. My name's Lex. I'm a co-founder of Generative Ventures, which is a venture fund that does what it sounds like. My credentials are that I'm an avid user of ChatGPT, and I also pay for Claude, Midjourney, I think Kling AI, Eden.art, and use none of them. So I'd say that qualifies me for valuing AI companies.
I mean, going through...
There's like no laughter
I
at
found
all.
it funny. I found it funny.
It's so awkward.
You got to put the laughter sign up.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I've been going through CVs, and people are saying, like, I'm a ChatGPT user as a skill on the CVs.
Yeah.
I'm like, it can be hard. It can be easier.
I feel like you should replace your HR people if that's what you're doing.
Well, I'm the one doing it. Cool. Now, before we get into the actual topic we're here for, as a former journalist, I want to start with a hot, newsy topic. So, is crypto decentralized enough, considering half of it went down yesterday alongside AWS?
No. I think you've got like the minimal decentralized core such you can sort of economize things, but people are very used to like centralized RPC nodes, like a lot of that layer, and it's a good reminder of kind of how that is backed. I think as well, a lot of things people struggle to put on chain, and then they have these companion services which are actually off chain, but no one really knows that. And again, it's going to become real when you have things like big AWS outages.
I mean, as ever, it depends why you want to decentralize. I think if you're thinking about it from a kind of availability perspective, and we think they're going to get more resilience from proper decentralization, even if we trade off some other, non-functional requirements, some performance characteristic, then I certainly back that. I think to try to connect it with this question of moving into the kind of machine, internet world, if we want a world where the behavior of either embodied or non-embodied AI is kind of deterministic, and verifiable, and something that cannot be captured by outside parties, then I think a key part of that is decentralization, and that we actually harness some quite edgy or frontier tech to to defend against that capture. And I think that's been a big theme of Vitalik's whole push for decentralization. But I think it's a slightly different dimension from just let's make sure that our Claude app is up when I want to prepare for my homework or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, or like, on its face, is sort of a misdirection, right? Which layer of technology are we talking about where decentralization matters? And my answer would be yes, it is sufficiently decentralized. Because you want to spend the calories of your work, like your effort, on things that matter, that are going to move the needle. And you know, you can decentralize everything. You can decentralize the like, where do you shop in the UK? Like,
Amazon, if you're online.
Okay.
Tesco's for food.
Do we need to decentralize like shopping for crypto employees in order for us to pass the purity test of decentralization? You know?
I think yes. I'm going to take you up on that because it's going to make it more interesting. It's yes, we do.
Okay.
I think we can immediately. The great metaphor is like frog boiling. It's very small amounts of complacency over a short period of time, but then compounded over time, that end up in a kind of a really terrible outcome. And so that complacency, and by the way, I agree with you, it's like the short-term economic analysis of whether or not it's worth decentralizing doesn't hold up, and that's the problem. But unfortunately, the complacency around that means you can end up with an architecture that, that gives up our sovereignty on many, many different levels. And then that can end up in a bad place,
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but also, like, infinite resource decentralize everything or make things anti-fragile across the state, but with very limited resources, which is what our industry has, let's point that at the choke points that actually matter. So, for example, we've all learned that Tempo has raised $500 million at a $5 billion valuation to create an EVM-ish type chain that's going to sit on Stripe distribution. So I care far more about decentralizing Stripe's distribution of payments into crypto companies and figuring out how that can be split up versus, if like there's an Amazon outage, how long it will take us to go to another hosting provider.
But you're sort of saying the Tempo thing is good for that purpose?
No, I'm saying that is much more of like a centralization risk.
Right.
If we, then, like, if we take talented developers and throw them at recreating Amazon at commodity prices versus if we take the same talented developers and throw them at difficult payments use cases and like the large leverage from getting that, we should do that. And I think sort of using the everything should be decentralized language gets people into solving problems that aren't big enough for us.
Yeah. I just thought it was ironic when I tried to use a crypto payments card, and the TradFi bit worked fine, but the crypto element had gone down due to AWS. All right, let's get back on topic. So what is meant by the idea of a machine web? Who wants to take this up?
Can have a crack to start. I guess humans and machines have coexisted on the internet for quite a long time. I was reading in the cap here the robot exclusion protocol, which is the robots.txt for those who know. That was around in 1994, I think that first came out, in terms of trying to define boundaries of where machines can and can't go. Other attempts are like around the 2010s with HTML5 coming out, something called the semantic web. The idea of what if we have the internet go from being something which is for human consumption, but is semantically understandable and readable by AI. I think the things that have changed now is probably two. One is with LLMs, it's a lot easier for a machine to understand the internet. I think trying to boil it down to semantic graph knowledge and stuff, it wasn't particularly effective. And the other one is sort of the Rails and infrastructure like crypto and wallets that allow agents to have equity with humans in terms of their ability to transact and interact. So I think it's been a thing that's been going along for a while, but we're just seeing it supercharged with recent events.
Oh, okay.
Can I build on that?
Sure.
So yeah, I agree with that. And if you take the agent side of things, there's this sort of a blurred line at the moment between a kind of a Web 2 agent that someone has rolled out that is essentially an extension of a SaaS offering, basically, and an actual sort of non-custodial, AI agent,
A self-sovereign agent, a free agent in a sense.
operate autonomously, has its own assets, can decide what to do with them, and hopefully all of that can operate confidentially where appropriate, and hopefully it's predictable what it actually does for you, and hopefully even benevolent what it does for you, and also hopefully it's underneath that it's got an architecture that cannot be captured, so it's verifiable that it's again going to behave over the long term. That's the kind of machine web I guess we want to end up in, that has a lot of potential, sort of done right. And the other qualification I'll maybe make is, I think that if you take a company like Wave, and we've got Frodobots in our portfolio and some other ones we're looking at, we're moving to this world where there is embodied AI, sort of proper robots rather than just software agents, that are built to have general sort of world, not just large language models, but world models that allow them to deal with the messiness of the physical world, and the data capture and the reinforcement around that. And I think that's an important distinction for defining what the machine web is as well. We're actually coping with the physical world.
So the idea of these sort of more complex AI models, while we might not be at that point yet, I think it's quite clear we are trending towards that direction. It doesn't seem impossible. So do you think we're moving away from the idea that the internet is for humans, and do you think we're moving towards a world where the internet is more for machines?
So I'll go doomer, just for, raise your hand if you're a doomer. Thank you. Okay.
Optimism
Speaking
for
the truth.
Tuesday morning.
No, these people are just too
Doomers
afraid
would
of
raise their
Rocco's
hands.
math.
They're too nihilistic for that.
So there's kind of like some fun science fiction endpoints. You've got the singularity, which I think is 2030, last I checked on the calendar, where you've got runaway AI intelligence and humans turn into pets and eventually sort of farmed into gray goo as the robots turn into a Dyson sphere around the sun. That's the natural path of the gray goo hypothesis. Then there's the dead internet theory, which is one of my favorites, right? Which is like everything you're engaging with on the internet is actually like a reflection of a reflection. It's like a software skeleton of somebody's thoughts, warped multiple times from decades ago, which is lovely. And so, you can call these things in different ways, but I think in all cases it goes to some sort of escape velocity. And the simplest way that we think about it at Generative Ventures is that most of net new GDP is coming from robots. Hardware robots, software robots, whatever robots. And if we look at like stock performance, the Magnificent Seven is responsible for anything and everything that's happened in the last couple of years. Like if you strip out California and tech, the world is flat, but for inflation and debasement. And so if you actually, I think what we're doing now is actually seeing the structure of the internet with which we're engaging. So like, more than 50% of the traffic on the internet is bots. It's fake clicks. How many of you have a Twitter account or an X account? Do you feel that most of your replies are real? Do you enjoy engaging with...
My replies or the replies to me?
I think you betray yourself. So already like our conversations are with bots. If you trade on the crypto markets, obviously you're botted into oblivion. There's no question there. If you trade on the equities markets, something like 98% of the orders poof out of existence immediately because they're constantly being created by quant firms that sit next to data centers. So more than half of the world already, as far as I understand, is automated, is technology, right? And we as humans are just starting to navigate and see the different bits of the labyrinth because we're at a place where we can own the AI, we can put them in our wallet, we can put them into an NFT and feel like we get to own the machines as well. But to me, that's like a rat realizing that they're in the labyrinth, and being like, we can build our own labyrinths too.
I think to Richard's point, it's about these machines as an extension of us. It's like a new limb, a new appendage to allow us to work faster and do things, versus the machines as self-sovereign entities with, their own ability to transact and their own things that they're doing.
Do we think AI agents have ruined X?
I get very complimentary messages back from those bots, which are clearly ran through ChatGPT, so I'll take it, yeah.
Do we think free speech has ruined X?
No, it's me. I'm the moderator.
Why not?
I think it'd be a great example of where some form of proof of humanhood or a verification would be ideal. So I'd like to have some sort of decentralized proof of humanhood, WorldCoin or something similar. It doesn't have to be that one with the eyeballs, but just some proof that the person reacting to me is human, as opposed to a bot. I don't mind bots reacting, but I'd like to know which is which.
I think 100%. It's interesting. So you bring up kind of Orbson's kind of WorldCoin proof of humanity, and that is often touted as a bit of an intersection between AI and kind of Web3, Web3 technologies. And I think we all probably could back the point you made that it would be good to know which is which. But it's interesting. I don't have the kind of full numbers for it, and actually this reminds me also of something you said just very briefly, sort of backstage, Lex, which is that, we're already in the machine web era, and it has been kind of coming about bit by bit, unbeknownst to kind of all of us. Not even
we are the frog that doesn't realize we've been boiled for a decade and a half.
So there's a big brouhaha about collecting retinal scan data, but the reality is that already there's a lot of data collected by the kind of health infrastructure or by your Whoop or your Garmin watch or whatever. There's vast quantities of data that have been captured, but we haven't noticed because it's happened more gradually, not as a step change. And so I think we do want that kind of differentiation between humans and machines, but we probably need to become alive to the trade-offs involved, or to the approach that we're taking to actually deliver on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if people think that, I guess for me the separation is autonomy, right? So once you have a AI agent that's got its own utility function that it's trying to fulfill, whether that utility function comes from some overlord that's farming AI agents and says, get clicks on this and that, or whether that utility function is somehow derived otherwise, like the autonomous pursuit of that is different than us being cyborgs and using tools and so on. So I'm curious whether you guys think the current state of inference is able to get us there anytime soon.
Sorry,
Okay, go ahead.
Well, a couple of thoughts spring to mind. And also kind of borne out by something you also said on the panel a second ago, Lex, which is that we're all becoming brilliant at kind of providing context to these different chatbots and other pieces of AI as humans. And I think, there's recent developments going on, and obviously, there's memory, but broadened context windows that are going to drive the performance of AI on our behalf. And I think, as you play it out, the context play is totally critical, and it's that context, obviously, that then informs inference, and that inference hopefully should not be a kind of proactive activity, but rather kind of by us. It should be something that is happening as a kind of background activity to kind of and then we'll work out how to serve our kind of purposes. I do think actually, and I don't know who on the panel has looked at this in kind of more detail, we obviously, if you look at economic activity, I think it's like 85-90% is on the generative AI side at the moment. And the reality is, of course, the inferences we're getting are still not fully deterministic. As in, you can ask the question 5 times and get 5 slightly different
And that's
answers.
like, it goes down to the bone because you're running on a GPU. The GPU itself, because of associativity of floating point operations, like fundamentally that computation can diverge.
The whole thinking machines.
It's really interesting, and for us, like with our sister project Somnia, at its core it's an EVM blockchain, but one of the things we want to add to it is LLM execution and having consensus on that output. at like a hash level, rather than it's sort of the same thing, really requires that to be solved. And that's to your point about allowing truly self-sovereign AI agents where you can actually verify what their intentions are and verifying that they've done it in the way as intended. That's something that needs to be solved,
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely where inference has got to go.
100%.
It'll be deterministic and confidential with respect to that massive context we're going to be continuously giving them.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really difficult to invest in crypto AI.
Well, Lex, to that point, you've written about the machine economy as an investable thesis. What makes you so bullish on that trend?
I'll give the first company I founded in 2009 was a robo-advisor in New York. And it was one of the first robo-advisors, and I was really excited about automating what financial advisors do. And it was this robot for money management. And then we've had neobanks and paytech, and we've had DeFi, and we've had all these DeFi protocols in every part of finance, and now we've got AgentFi, and we're back to robot money. And it's like, I've just been doing robo-advisors now for 15 years, and the technology changes, but the direction is the same. And if you kind of abstract even up a little bit, like technology is just human ideas written into code. So they're not really robots, they're just expressions of what people want in a repeatable structure. And I think that's kind of really basic to the human economy and where we're going. Like there's only one direction. Whether we like the direction we're going or not, like taking off the doomer hat, like maybe it's the sad castle or the happy castle, we don't know, but there's only sort of one direction, I think, that this stuff flows. When we look at the machine economy, which is just that sort of realization that most GDP is going to come from new tech, not, fixing the NHS, or like, it's a joke for those of you that live in the UK, like, I guess it's not funny.
Yeah.
It's not funny. So I think when we look at the machine economy, there's kind of categories that crypto's playing in. And I think some categories are more helpful than others, although I think there can be successes in all the categories. So the first category is, isn't that a nice Web 2 AI industry you have there? What if we just did it in crypto? So like, we're just going to do that better. And so you see a whole bunch of people and projects saying, evil big tech, let's decentralize inference. Evil hosting companies, let's decentralize GPU clouds. Evil data companies, let's crowdsource the data. And that's sort of like a very, not basic, but like a core crypto motion. And so doing AI with crypto incentives is kind of one big category. There's extremely little evidence from an investor perspective that crypto people have been good at anything at all outside of financial markets. We're going to do gaming with crypto, we're going to do social with crypto, et cetera, et cetera. So I've got my skepticism about that category, but I think there's a lot of valuable and interesting stuff in there. The second category is we're going to use AI to distribute crypto products or financial products. And that follows a pretty long trend of you're going to buy a bank account from a person in a suit, or you're going to buy an investment from a person in a suit, then you're going to buy an investment from a website, then you'll buy an investment from your mobile phone, and then you'll buy an investment from your AI agent. And the investment underneath might have been equities, and now it's crypto assets. So I think that's a very real category, but in fact it's competing with Robinhood, it's competing with Fidelity's website, it's competing with ChatGPT on the distribution side.
Yeah.
And I think it's a difficult category.
Okay.
And then the third sort of place where we focus a lot is the idea of, if you do have this new machine GDP, what are the financial systems that are necessary for that to function well? And I call it robot money as a caricature, but theoretically you would have new payments processing, you would have new capital market systems, you would have much more programmatic sort of interactions between your money. And it's hazy, it's wide. I think Base is doing some really cool stuff there. And so, when you're looking at the space, you got to pick your lane and decide what you like.
Okay, yeah. Any other views?
Yeah, agree with that categorization. I'd argue that the decentralization of AI is important and fundamental, and I guess people who have been in crypto for a long time believe that. I mean, Bitcoin is decentralized, stateless money. Ethereum has made a lot of trade-offs to enable itself to be decentralized at the expense of competitors who are more centralized. So I think it's possible to build decentralized systems. I think it's really hard, and we've had success in finance. I'd like us to have success in other areas. I do think it's fundamentally important. In the middle area around like robo-advisors, yeah, we're seeing a lot of that on Base. I think it is helpful. It's basically taking stuff you want to do but automating it quickly. Stuff like launching a token, like Bank is a good example. Yield optimization through something like Giza. Launching tokens like with virtuals, like agents connected to tokens. And many other products which are enabling you to do stuff you would do anyway. But Bank is an example where you can just ask the agent on Twitter to buy some crypto for you or move money around. So I think that's an investable category. I think we've seen lots of projects doing decent in that area. And the third area of actually making the payment rails and the infrastructure ready to do this sort of stuff at scale, enabling robots, AI agents to work. I think it's the most interesting area. And obviously Coinbase has been working on things like X402, which is a protocol chain agnostic to enable people to move money around the internet very easily with just one line of code. We built AgentKit on Base, which enables you to give your agent a wallet to enable it to go do stuff on your behalf. I think this is the most interesting category and a lot of like room for exploration. Before we get to the dystopian area that you're describing, where the robots take control, I'm optimistic. I think we can. I believe in a very human-focused internet, and actually, like, I think it'd be good if we stopped using the internet so much ourselves, just let the robots do it, and just focus on being in real life. Like, honestly, I think we spend too much time on internet. And let it be like a voice interacted interface. Let the robots do their thing and just like hang out here.
Yeah. And what's your experience with the Base blockchain? Are you seeing, is it more people, more AI agents, and then also perhaps what is Coinbase doing with AI?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that Base's philosophy is very human-centered, actually, like really human-centered. We invest a lot in community, like a huge amount in community. I just spent like 3 weeks traveling around the world in Asia, working on growing the Base network. It's all about in-person meetings, in-person community. We've hired leaders across the world, like physically, in over 16 countries. By the end of next year, we'll be live in 20, 30 countries, like growing real communities. So yeah, the way we think about it is very like human first, and using agents and AI to optimize what we're doing already.
And I can attest to Base being a fantastic partner, because we're launching have launched and have got underway an accelerator called Residency. We're going to talk about more tomorrow, actually, in partnership with Coinbase and Base and Animoca and Founders Factory. And we've already had a whole bunch of applications, and you know, I do want to shill the program, but somewhat unintentionally. We've already had a whole bunch of applications, hundreds and hundreds of applications, and people are going through and sort of doing videos and stuff. And so, although actually I've not been on some of that first sort of screening, I've already seen the quality, and they relate to the different investment areas that we've been talking about. And so to quickly respond a little bit on Lex's side, I mean, of course, there's no debating that the crypto community has been stronger on the world casino side than the world computer, arguably. However, kind of going up the stack a little bit, we, I guess, at Fabric are still optimistic that the coordinating power and the kind of almost financial engineering that is possible when you provide incentives to people to provide things like GPUs can actually, which we obviously have seen has delivered something around Bitcoin and around Ethereum and other proof-of-stake networks, can be applied to the resources required, say GPUs, and possibly other resources, maybe coordinating better electricity grids, for example, that are required, the immense resources like, you know, 5, 10, 20 trillion, God knows what it is, required by AI. So we're still optimistic at that layer. Zen sort of mentioned it, but like that, the payments component, we have a kind of an extensive portfolio already around the kind of stablecoin sandwich thesis and how that will become central to the rails upon which, you know, the machine internet will operate. And I think within that, the application of cryptography in a clever way to solving not the KYC, KYB, know your transaction, KYT, KYA, know your agent problem, which is maybe the critical, it's a critical bridge to the human world, because we want to entrust actions to agents and have them make payments, but we do still need to check at the fringes that this has not been co-opted for something that is bad for humanity. I think that's another area. And then you talk about robo-advisors and starting to kind of take decisions about what crypto to buy. Again, ultimately, I believe that there's a context play or there's going to be a world in which we provide a huge amount of our context, so things get hyper-personalized, and hopefully we can sit back and have agents operate on behalf, but not just in boring financial transactions, let's hope, but rather to think about our days and our personal productivity and the things we need and don't need at different point in time and lay that up for us. I think that's the optimistic view of where I think we can get to.
Okay.
Could I ask a question, a follow-up question? Do you mind? Sorry.
If you're really quick, we haven't got long.
It'll be super quick. It'll be really quick. But it will be to disagree. I'm not sure with whom or about what. So the question is, and we're invested across all three categories as well.
Yeah.
I've been extremely surprised the speed with which Stripe, OpenAI, and the group of companies affiliated there have launched their agentic payments protocol, and the speed with which Coinbase and Anthropic and Google and the group of companies affiliated there have launched their agentic payment. No, one is payments, one is commerce. So there's, for us, we thought there's this big white space of AI agent finance stuff that's going to be available for startups, and then immediately all the air out of the room was sucked out through a straw by two extremely powerful incumbent groups. So how are you guys thinking about that and what are the companies that you can invest in if the sort of core AI agent finance protocol is actually built by folks who already have the footprint?
In that middle section, kind of the stable sandwich, payments, sort of thing. What's the defensibility for someone who's a startup?
There's no space for X402, for BitTensor to be X402, right, for example. X402 is great, and it's fantastic. So what kind of companies are investable on the venture side on top of it?
Look, of course, that's the $1 billion, $10 billion question, and each time it's normally actually beyond the pay grade of a venture investor, I'd say, to work out what it is, but rather to find the founders who might be able to crack
Artful
it.
dodge, Richard.
And I would say that it probably is married to this question of confidentiality and context. And I can bring it back to your point that there's kind of no point in chasing an investment area that isn't the highest priority with the quickest return. And so that if we have to prove that, for example, treating personal data confidentially to provide context creates outcomes that are markedly better than anything else. So creates, it's not philosophically better. It's kind of actually materially better in terms of the insight you get and the actions you get, and hopefully even the economics you get, perhaps. And so I think that's where if founders are applying themselves to doing that better, there should be some edge in there versus the clear, centralizing force of these existing players, the existing. And maybe the other way I look at it is, but there's maybe we have reached doomsday, but there's always been these behemoths who have that advantage, but there's always been the upstarts who manage to find an edge, and we get turnover ultimately. So I'm optimistic on that basis.
Can I be a bit provocative
Point
about this?
taken, though.
So I think, again, I've done sort of fundraising for the companies that we've been doing. Everyone wants to be the platform. Everyone wants to be the horizontal layer that takes that little tax. Everyone wants to be the Stripe. And I think with this whole area, we have to be asking ourselves, what are the actual use cases? What are the actual companies that are going to start, they're going to actually solve real problems for people, rather than presupposing that there is going to be this big rush and try and sell picks and shovels. And I think there's often that kind of like world of essentially all of us kind of pointing at each other, building protocols on top of protocols. But somewhere, someone has to build a consumer-facing application that's going to get a lot of use and mean something to people and add value to them. So
Yeah.
I think it's a brilliant point, which is start with the app, then build the platform. And that's how you get under the radar. You build something that looks totally innocuous, actually gets some proper traction.
Tim is so uncomfortable.
All right.
And then you crush
really,
We are
we've done
running
it.
out of
We've
time.
done it. Yeah,
Slash overtime. Final question. You're now down to a yes/no answer due to the time situation.
No.
Can AI agents and humans, can we find a way on the internet that we all live in harmony? Yes, no.
yes.
Is that cyborgs and humans? No.
AI agents, humans, can we all find a perfect harmony on the internet?
To be determined.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. That's a positive, exciting vision.
No further explanation necessary.
It's up to us.
All right. I've been Tim Copeland, Head of Growth at The Block, your favorite crypto news site. Give a warm thank you to all of our panelists. All right, excellent. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good job.